Welcome to the Nord Show, a podcast about all things movies and games, where we discuss with creators and get their thoughts on said movies and games. I'm your host, Joe Aragon. You may know me from TikTok as Cinema Joe, and I am joined today by the great Justin Wong. We'll be chatting about creating content, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, fighting games, some of their favorite movies, and then answering some questions at the end. Justin, how are you doing, man?
Man, thank you for having me. Just been good, doing good, grinding. It's 2022, so I mean, we've been home for over two and a half years, pretty
Ooh,
much.
yeah.
So yeah, just been kind of focusing different things compared to my before pre-COVID life, where I traveled a lot for
Yeah.
tournaments, around the world type of thing, right? So yeah, I mean, now we're here. Here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. Do you think you gotten better now because of the lockdown? Like, you grinded so hard, all these like games. Are you like a better player now, you think?
I guess it really depends on that answer. So I would say for a person that loves fighting games and like thinks of this as more of a hobby than a career, I do think I got better as a fighting game player because of just learning like new things, playing different fighting games, and also like seeing from like how different their play style works and like other metas. I would say from the modern fighting game standpoint, though, I'm probably not as much as a competitor anymore
Oh,
because
interesting.
because I feel like maybe my tournament drive has disappeared because it kind of went from like this professional career into a more casual stay at home, stream, make YouTube content type of career. So
Interesting.
it's more of it's more fun for me now
Got it. All right.
instead of a competitive standpoint.
That's good. That's good. Well, we're going to dive a lot into that in just a second. And before we do, again, follow us on Spotify, drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, hey, drop a review, suggest a movie you'd like us to talk in a future episode. And of course, subscribe to the NordVPN YouTube channel. All right. So we started talking about it. You're a content creator now. You're a professional fighting game player. From what I learned recently, you hold the record for the most EVO tournament wins. I just need to know, when did this all start? When did you start? Actually, let's start with this. When did you start the fighting game career, and then that transition to creating content? Was it difficult? Was it hard? Was it easy?
I guess like the first tournament I ever been to was probably in the year of 2000, 2001.
Mhm.
So I was like 14 years old at the time. No, I was 16 years old at the time. And then I was just going to a tournament in New Jersey called The Break, and my friends like, yeah, you should come with and play against a bunch of people that's you probably will never ever have a chance to play. And that was the selling point to me, because like I was really loving just playing people in my arcade, and that was it. So the fact that you sold me on, oh, you could play with other people that you will never ever play against versus you could win like $500, right? To me, playing other people was like worth more than $500, because
Yeah.
I just had the goal of just wanting to become good at fighting games, or like just making sure that I win. I didn't know tournaments existed. I didn't even know what the definition of a tournament was. So just playing in that tournament really gave me that adrenaline rush. And then ever since then, from that tournament in like the year 2001, I wanted just to keep playing in every tournament. Like I wanted to travel from the tri-state to like, to the south, to the west coast, to Japan, then starting around the world. It just never got old for me. I just wanted to keep playing. And even if it's a new fighting game, I'll just learn it and want to be competitive in it, so I can like have a reason and excuse to actually go to a tournament.
Yeah. I have so many follow-up questions for you right now. So I'm trying
Yeah.
to pick one. First one, what was the first game for that tournament? Do you know what it was?
It was Marvel's Capcom 1.
Oh, one.
So Marvel's Capcom 2 was already out. But the thing was, in the arcades, if I don't know if you remember this, when you first launched the game, there was like a globe, and then there's
Yeah.
a lot of question marks.
Oh, yeah.
So all the characters weren't released yet. So the
Mm.
tournaments, like I guess the tournament organizer at the time said, we can't run tournaments for this game until we get all the characters. So I think it was like maybe there's 56 characters in the game total, but I think at the time it was only like 40 characters out.
Got it.
So they couldn't run a tournament, so they decided to run Marvel's Capcom 1. And it was like over around like 300 people that entered, and I got fifth place.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the only people I lost to actually are the people from our arcade that were better than me.
Interesting.
It was our Arturo Sanchez and Eddie Lee. So like they beat me, but everyone out of state, like I was beating people from like the best in Virginia, the best in Connecticut. So it kind of gave me that drive to like, I want to try more. I want to like see what other players I'll fight. Can I win a tournament? You know, stuff like that. So it just kind of gauged my interest a bit more.
Unrelated to fighting games, you mentioned it made you want to travel and start playing in different states and different regions. How many states you've been to in the United States? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know if I can remember on top of the number, but I mean, every popular city, 100% I probably went to. Like New York, like I was born in New York, so it doesn't count. Okay. But like, let's see, Florida, Chicago, California, Texas,
all the big ones,
Atlanta, like all the big ones for sure, right? Yeah. The random ones, like I've been to like Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, what's the Nebraska fighting scene like?
You know what's crazy about that you mentioned that? There's actually a huge fighting game scene in Nebraska. Yeah,
really?
For reals. Yeah, I never been to that. I never been there, but I know they definitely do exist.
Oh, I'm sure. That is funny. Do you have a favorite state?
Favorite state
besides your home state?
To be honest, New Orleans.
Oh, did not
so okay. Louisiana is it's a great place. I think it's because like the food there and the culture was like super fantastic. Like I'm a big foodie and a tourist person. Like anytime I'm in a different like area I've never been to, I always want to do touristy stuff and eat some good food, right? So New Orleans, just like walking on like that main street area where like like the town looks all different, the colors. It felt great. It was super nice to look at, and then the nightlife just kind of transforms into this like super party city. And yeah, I mean, I had a blast. I seen videos as a kid, like, oh, Mardi Gras, like that type of stuff, right? Who had never seen those commercials before, right?
Yeah.
But just being there for a tournament and then experiencing not nice. Like the Mardi Gras level, but just in general is nice. So I would say New Orleans is like my favorite place to go to.
Okay. I'm in San Diego. I don't know if you've ever been over here.
I've been to San Diego.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Where Comic-Con and TwitchCon and stuff.
I always forget that Comic-Con's here, and I go every year because it's down the street from my apartment.
Yeah.
But, New Orleans is a very good choice. I'm not offended by it at all. So you started with the fighting tournament, professional fighting scene, went on to win a lot of Evos. And for those who don't know, I mean, I guess you can say Evo is probably the biggest fighting tournament in the country, in the world.
It's considered the world tournament. It's like the World Series of Poker for fighting game. If you had to like describe it to someone that didn't know too much.
Perfect. The World Series of Poker for fighting games. I like how you didn't say the World Series of Baseball. You just said the World Series of Poker.
Oh, it's because is there a World Series of Baseball? Like you talking about like just MLB finals in general?
Yeah.
No, it's because you have to be on a team, right?
Okay.
But World Series of Poker, like anyone, like if you have the entry fee, you can just enter.
Okay.
That's why I say WSOP.
Got it. Are you a poker player too, or?
No, I'm terrible. Like I would need those dark shades so you don't see my facial expression, because if you look me straight in the eye, I'll be like, I'll look away right away.
You don't have a good bluff game. Okay.
No, definitely not.
All right. But you made this transition now because, and maybe you can let me know, is it because of, the pandemic that you made this transition to creating content more online, more like a streaming type environment? Is that why you started to do this?
So I was actually creating content while I was going to tournaments. But it was definitely hard. Obviously, like trying to like juggle and find time to do that is really tough. But it became more serious once the pandemic hit, because I mean I can't go out now. There's tournaments are canceled, flights are canceled. Like nobody wants to go out, and obviously, of course, nobody should go out at that time. And I decided to like, you know what, we have to adapt here. We can't rely on tournaments anymore, and I got to make sure that like my like the supporters, my fans, my sponsors, they don't forget about me.
Yeah. Of course.
So I started to create content, and I decided to do it for like more of the older stuff, just because I felt like at the time, and still now, nostalgia is a huge factor now. Everyone loves nostalgia. So I decided to go with the nostalgia route because I'm more knowledgeable, and I feel like because I grew up in the era where I guess things weren't recorded because we didn't have YouTube or Google Drives or Dropboxes.
Any of that, yeah.
We only thing you had was like Game Pro magazines or tips and tricks,
Tips and
and it's
tricks.
right,
Wow.
or somebody, or if you were blessed with a computer growing up and you had like your own forums and AOL chat rooms or stuff.
Yeah.
So I decided that maybe I could be a historian for this because I have all this experience growing up in arcade, all these stories, playing all these old games and learning about all these old games that I could just make videos about it. So that's kind of my thing, and it's been a blast ever since.
Now, if you were to explain to somebody, because Twitch is obviously very popular, but I think if you would talk to someone on the street and say, "Hey, do you watch Twitch?" They might say, "Yeah, I see this guy streaming Call of Duty or Fortnite or Apex or League
Yeah.
of Legends." When you stream more nostalgic stuff or fighting games, are you playing against computers, AIs? Are you playing against other people? How are you streaming? Because I would imagine you're so good that playing the AI doesn't really do much. So how are you making content with fighting games?
So, actually, when you talk about AI,
Uh-huh.
old school fighting game AI are like the most brutal
Oh, really?
bosses. Yeah, like video games back in the day were hard.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Modern games now is much easier unless you count like the Dark Souls games.
Oh, yeah.
But in general, modern games are easier.
Mhm.
So when you play like a Mortal Kombat or like a Street Fighter, they're actually pretty hard. It's actually
Interesting. I
like,
didn't know that.
yeah, you have to know their patterns. You have to like kind of like, like have experience. There's no way like a professional player, let's say you're a professional Mortal Kombat 11 player,
Uh-huh.
and you never played any other Mortal Kombats before. 100%, I would put any money down that they would not be able to beat the game first try.
Wow.
If they went to like Mortal Kombat 2, they would
Interesting.
definitely spend some time and some credits just trying to beat the game.
I find that incredibly fascinating because you would assume just because someone's a professional fighting game, like in that specific franchise, they could easily translate. But that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I go back and play these games and make YouTube videos, and people love my rage expressions because I'm like very emotional or like super pissed off or like super angry at like the boss because they're reading whatever you press a button,
Uh-huh.
the AI reads it and they counter it right away.
Wow, that is
So you have to try to trick them, right?
crazy.
With like pressing buttons that you should never ever press,
Yeah.
so they could do a move, and then you react to them responding to that move. But also, I play with people as well because there's a program developed by a community of
Okay.
fighting game fanatics called Fightcade, where you can play online with people around the world in these old games. And this is not possible with for like any official releases for like some of these obscure titles. So 5K2 definitely does that.
Interesting. Now, is there a stigma in the community as somebody who's not in the fighting game community? Don't get me wrong. I love watching people play fighting games. I love watching the cutscenes and people play
Yeah.
each other. I watch tournaments all the time. I am hot garbage at playing them. It's not an easy genre to like really get into unless you really put a lot of dedication into it. But I'm curious, is there like a stigma about people who use like fight pads versus people who use controllers at all? Is it like looked down on if you use a controller at all? in the
No,
fighting
it's
community?
actually not. I would say most people when they think about fighting games from back in the day, they think about the joysticks, right?
Yeah.
Like the joystick and the 6 buttons right there. But I would say some of the best players in the world now for like modern fighting games are all pad players,
Interesting.
because I would say that game companies and developers, they made their fighting games to be like, I would say, more comfortable to play on with pad.
Got it.
Because I would say that if you do decide to play older games with a pad controller, it's a lot harder. It's not easy. Because the game was kind of, I guess, more designed to play on joystick based off like just how the game works.
Mhm.
But now it's the complete opposite because they know that most people are going to be pad players versus joystick players.
Got it. What do you find yourself playing a lot right now in terms of fighting games? Is there one that like is a fan favorite in your community you're always playing, or are you doing a mix of a bunch?
I would say it's probably just a mix of bunch when it comes down to like the old stuff.
Mhm.
Like I played like the Marvel's Capcom series like 1, 2, and 3. Then you have like Street Fighter 2, 3s. So I would say definitely the old stuff just because this is what my content really does great on my
Got it.
channel.
Okay.
So I just focus on that. But for modern stuff, probably King of Fighters 15.
Okay.
So that one came out like I would say like a few months ago.
Yeah.
So I'm like one of those people that if it's a new fighting game, I'll always try it out. Like if you tell me that this new fighting game is coming out next week,
That's awesome.
9 out of 10, I'll buy it, just try it out and see what I think about it. So yeah,
That's fair.
I'm like the supporter of all fighting games in general.
That's good. I mean, that's good. You
Yeah,
want to be a jack of all trades when it comes to this kind of stuff, and I'm sure not everything translates, but it's a good experience, anyways.
yeah, it's just fun. I just like to find out combos, see what they were thinking about when making this fighting game.
Mhm.
I try to have fun with it as much as I can.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, you've built this great community. I mean, do you have a favorite thing about the community that you love? Something that's really personal to you, or about the community that you love?
Um, I guess I would say that some of them I actually became really good friends with.
Oh, okay.
Like, I met them offline, and we went to go eat and enjoy food, and that's because of just, my transition of like from a pro player to like more of like a content creator,
Mhm.
and I met them because of that. Because I just started going more crazy on like streaming on Twitch and creating content for YouTube.
Yeah.
So, and then we met up, had some food, became good friends. They stayed at my place for like a week. So yeah, we became really good friends off of that,
Nice.
and yeah,
That's
it's
great.
pretty awesome.
Well, I feel like I could pick your brain on the fighting game community and games
Yeah,
in
you.
general all day, but it is a dual podcast on movies and games. Are you a big movie guy? Do you find yourself just playing mostly games, or are
Oh,
you a movie
oh
person?
man. I love movies. I would say my one of my I don't know if you call this a hobby. I actually had a debate with my friend the other day about it. But maybe you could let me know.
Okay.
So he's like, so like what kind of hobbies do you like would you tell people? And I was like, I guess one of my hobbies is I like going to the movie theaters by myself and watching a movie.
Perfectly fine. It's definitely a hobby. I used to do it all the
Right?
time. I mean, I'm married now, so I have to drag someone with me all the time, but she gladly will go with me. But yeah, that is a hobby. You can tell that
Yeah.
person. I can confirm it is a hobby. It is a hobby.
Right. So I do that a lot pretty often, especially when I take like I'm like the guy that comes in at like 11 a.m. for the first movie of the day type of thing.
It's cheaper. So that's very fair. And yeah, I think the stigma behind going to the movies alone existed for a long time. I think as of like the last 5 or 6 years, it's become more accepted to just hey go and watch. I mean, people watch movies at home alone all the time. There's no reason you
Yeah,
can't go to the
I don't know.
theater.
Yeah, I don't really care. It's just like I know there was a stigma. Of like, oh, why are you going by yourself?
Yes.
That's so
Yeah.
whack. Like you're so lonely. You don't have friends. But now I'm just like, no, I just don't have time. This is my time, so I want to go watch a movie by myself.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's about time, and we're all getting older, have different commitments, and like I
Yeah,
said, hey, checking a movie at 11 a.m. is cheaper than going at 8 p.m. on a Friday night.
that's what I'm
So
saying. Get me that matinee price.
exactly. So what type of genre do you find yourself really leaning into? Are you a big sci-fi, fantasy person? Are you a horror person? Are you a romance drama guy?
I love romantic comedies.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Yeah, romantic comedies are like the most like easiest watch. Like in
Yes, they
terms of
are.
like turning off my brain, I don't have to think too much about the plot and anything.
Uh-huh.
Because they have like the good beginning, introducing the characters, and the good like honeymoon phase, and then the
Mhm.
little rough patch and the makeup usually. So I like watching those a lot. I would say other movies that really I enjoy to watch are like hype films, like
Oh,
films that people hype up on like social media. So, for example, I didn't expect. I had no plans of watching everything everywhere
oh, everything, everywhere
all,
all at once.
all at
Yeah.
once. I had no plans to watch it at all. But everyone kept talking about it on Twitter. They
Oh,
kept
yeah.
kept talking about it. So I went to go watch it, and I was like, okay, see, without people hyping me up for this movie, I probably would never have watched it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not experienced greatness.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm one of the hype people on the internet. Actually, I know I am. Not so much Twitter. I am on Twitter a lot, but I'm more of the
Yeah,
TikTok guy. And I saw that one a few days early, and then I remember making my review, and I was like, everybody needs to get out in the theater and watch this. Like,
yeah, yeah.
it'll blow your mind, or it will pleasantly surprise you at the very least. I'm glad you watched it because it was a really good movie, and I think will continue to be one of the year's best. This is funny because I'm going to transition. I mean, that movie surprisingly had a lot of action in it, a lot of
It
fighting
had
in
a lot
it.
of, yeah, it had a lot of action for sure. It was pretty interesting the way they did everything in terms of like how they learn like specific skills. I love that.
Yes, yeah, yeah. It's very interesting, unique. I don't want to talk too much about it only because it's still out, and if people listening
Yeah,
are looking to go
exactly.
watch it, I don't want to spoil too much. But I was really excited to do this episode with you for a number of reasons. One, I'm a big fan, but two, I haven't had a chance to talk about any movies that with fighting in it. No fighting movies, and there's a lot of great martial arts fighting movies out there. There's also a lot of bad ones, but they're really fun still, and that's
Yeah.
why when I sent you that list of movies, you're like, "Let's talk about Street Fighter. Let's talk about Mortal Kombat." And I was like, "Yes, I've seen these movies a couple hundred times. I feel like they're so cheesy, they're so corny, but I love them anyways." I just want to know what's your experience with these movies? When did you first watch them? Do you have a memory of when you first watched them? Do you have any like
I
story
definitely
about when you
watched
first saw it?
them. I definitely watched them right away.
Oh,
Just
really?
because this was like the whole SNES phase with
Mhm, mhm.
everybody, video game phase. So Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat were like complete hits, right? They were like the things that people love playing in the arcades, and the fact that they made a movie about it. I mean, yes, why not? So Street Fighter, I mean, when they said Jean Claude Van Damme was playing Guile, I thought that was the greatest thing in the world because I mean when you watch his other movies, like he's so good,
Yeah.
right? Like the action is great in general, but obviously when it comes to Street Fighter movie, he was a little toned down in terms of
Mhm.
action. It's not as gory and bloody as compared to the other ones like Bloodsport, for example.
Yeah, I love Bloodsport.
Yeah, but to me, I love the movie because it was so funny to watch.
Mhm.
Like even as a kid, I enjoyed the movie because I thought it was hilarious because I was super into Street Fighter lore.
Uh-huh. Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, so seeing the movie version was really funny. Where like Ryu and Ken were like smugglers,
Yeah.
pretty much, just like smugglers and just doing, dealing with like arms and drugs, and they were doing illegal stuff. And I thought that was the most funniest thing because they're one of the two most iconic characters in just Street Fighter history, and they were, they had like this like way of the Hado, this pure like monk feeling type of vibe where they
Uh-huh.
kind of studied. And but in Street Fighter movie, they're smugglers. The complete opposite, night and day.
Yeah, I rewatched Street Fighter to prepare for this episode a couple days ago because I've seen Mortal Kombat probably a lot more
Yeah, of
times, so I was
course.
very familiar with it. But I hadn't watched Street Fighter since probably when I was early 2000s and I was like 13, 14 years old. And I forgot how many characters they throw into that movie. I mean, they throw almost the entire original roster into the movie. I forgot that like Blanca's in it for a second and
Yep.
Balrog's in it and Sagat's in it. Everybody's in it. Even if they have really small roles, they will throw them in there for a little bit. Is there any particular character that you thought was, besides Ryu and Ken, was maybe too ridiculous or the most fun? Who did you gravitate towards the most?
S- Um, so I personally loved Chung Li and Honda and Bar, like the little
Yes,
squad,
that squad.
right? Right, the friend squad. That
Yeah,
was really cool.
yeah,
I love
same.
that synergy and everything, and that they were fighting, and the fights that they did, especially with like Honda and Zangief, and they acted as Godzilla pretty much.
Yes.
That was great. So I would say the characters that I was like, bro, I don't know what they were doing, but I guess they just had to like they just had to add it in because like we need every character in here, right? Was DJ
Yes, DJ.
and Dawson.
Yeah, Dawson for
So
sure.
so DJ, like he was just like this lazy grunt or whatever that just wanted to get paid, and he didn't even
Yeah.
fight.
No,
He didn't
no
do
fighting.
anything. No fighting. He was just talking, right? So I was like, damn, he didn't do it. He barely did anything. So it was kind of like whack for him. Another one was Dawson, and I think what triggered me the most about Dawson was that this 99% of the film, he's in this like, like a doctor scientist outfit, right? Right. And at
Yes.
the end, when Guile came in, the last scene before he fought Bison, Dawson is in shirtless. He had the skulls. And I'm like, bro, what happened? Like, how did you what is this transformation?
Yes, you're 1,000% right. I noticed that while watching. I forgot that he was even in the movie, but you're right. He's just like a computer scientist,
Yeah.
doctor in the lab coat. But when he shows up in his, like, video game outfit, I
Oh my
thought maybe he
gosh.
was gonna fight, and he doesn't even fight in the
He
movie,
doesn't.
which is disappointing because I always found Dalsum to be, one of the more interesting characters in Street Fighters. I don't and that's a good question for you as well. I don't know how much lore there is in Street Fighter. Is it a pretty, like,
It's pretty
thorough?
deep. It's
Is it?
pretty deep. Yeah, like in terms of like, like Dawson is like one, like he's pretty much like the prophet, right? He kind of like tells all, shows all type of thing.
Uh-huh.
Like, so it's kind of like, I don't know, like think of him as like he's like
Raiden?
Raiden, that narrator type of guy.
Got it, okay.
Right. And then Bison is like the super boss, like the dictator trying to take all. And then Guile's the one, like it's pretty similar in terms of like Guile's or whatever, trying to like stop Bison.
Uh-huh.
And then Chung Li's like Bison murder his dad. And it's very similar in terms of that
Okay.
regards. But there's just a lot of different storylines in terms of, because Bison is just one of the bosses. Because then you have like Gil, who's also the god of Street Fighter, and
Yeah.
he actually shows up in Street Fighter 3, right? And then you have like Seth, who becomes like Bison's like failed clone, because Bison was wanted to like change his body to become Seth's body and stuff like that. It gets really crazy.
Wow.
They're still making comics now
Oh, wow, I
with
didn't
Street
know.
Fighter in terms of it. So it does get pretty deep, I would say.
So what you're telling me is that a Street Fighter remake is necessary in the future?
Oh yeah, I mean, if it definitely, I would love to see it happen.
Uh-huh.
They actually made a few films which failed terribly, like The Legend of Chung Li.
Oh my god, I
Yeah.
blocked that one out. You're right.
Don't watch that. Assassin's Fist is okay.
Uh-huh.
I bought it just because I like Capcom.
Yeah,
And obviously the animated movies are always the ones that do it justice the most.
of course,
Uh,
of course.
But yeah, I would say it would be nice. I mean, they made a modern Mortal Kombat movie. Why not make a modern Street Fighter movie?
It feels like it's the right time to do it. I mean, video game movies are all the rage now.
It is.
They're not-
It's like Sonic. Yep.
Yeah, Sonic 2 did really, really well at the box office, and I don't see why not. I mean, especially if the lore is as deep as you're saying it is, it feels like there's a lot of material to work with. Switching over gears to Mortal Kombat, probably the more popular of the
Yeah.
two in terms of movie-wise, at least. Would you say the same is for video game-wise? Is Street Fighter the more popular fighting game in the community, or is Mortal Kombat?
I would say currently in the community, like in the competitive community, Street Fighter is. But I would say for the casual audience, Mortal Kombat's probably always going to be better, just because of the game, the single player content for like
Yes, yeah.
gameplay and like fatalities, brutalities. Like, everyone loves that type of stuff in
Mhm.
in America. While Street Fighters, people just know as nostalgia purposes mainly, because I mean now Street Fighter is just selling all their IPs to everyone. Like Ryu, Cammy, Blanca's in Fortnite now.
Oh, that's
Um,
right. That's right. Yeah.
right,
And
so
Ryu's in Smash, right? Oh, no.
Smash Brothers, yeah, he's
Yeah,
Ryu
he
and Ken
is.
are Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
So they're in a lot of things. So Capcom's just trying to get their name a bit out there more. But Mortal Kombat definitely, for me, out of like iconic video game movies, it stands out as like one of the tops for sure.
Is it because of the music, or is it something else?
I mean, no one forgets the music.
That's very
Right?
true.
No one forgets the music.
No
And
one
the
ever
crazy,
does.
yeah, the crazy part is that music, like that soundtrack, it was never used in any Mortal Kombat game.
Yeah,
That's the crazy
that's,
part.
That's crazy. I did read that when I was doing some research on the movie. I was surprised that they made the song basically for the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't played any of the Mortal Kombat's post the movie. I don't think they ever put it in a game, have
No,
they?
they never did. Which is crazy, because like even like random like clubs like were playing that song
So random.
sometimes randomly, and like even like like if you went to like a Coachella type of concert, like there's gonna be one point that Mortal Kombat theme song just pops on.
Yeah, that's crazy. It has transcended the movie pretty well. What about now? We talked about the ridiculousness of the Street Fighter characters. What about the Mortal Kombat characters? I feel like Johnny Cage is pretty ridiculous. I always found Goro to be particularly really cheesy and bad. I mean, besides the fact that he looks bad, but just
Yeah.
the way he acts, it never felt like I was watching the game. It was just like a really corny interpretation of it.
I guess because like we didn't have the technology to make
We definitely didn't.
characters like that cool, because like I mean the more modern Mortal Kombat, like he looks a lot more polished
Yes,
in that
yeah,
one,
it does.
right? So I guess it's because of the times. But for me, I mean, I personally love I like Johnny Cage is ridiculous as a character, but his fight with Scorpion is definitely probably the most iconic fight in the whole movie, right? The forest and everything, and Scorpion's just so badass in general, right? When like Scorpion put the hand up and you see the little mouth thing come up, that was cool. So they did a great job for that. I would say the character, I'm just like, bro, what? Why was he in this movie? Type of thing was Reptile.
Reptile.
He was there for like 5 seconds and just got, the movie just said Reptile, like the game, and he just got washed by Liu Kang so fast. And I'm like, bro, what was the point of Reptile?
I know. I always like Reptile as a character too. I always thought he was a really interesting design, cool powers, and in that movie, definitely that Street Fighter mentality of just throwing a character in real quick and then he's gone type deal. But Mortal Kombat isn't as, I feel like, egregious in throwing all of the characters out at you like the Street Fighter movie was. I don't know how you feel
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, not every character was in the film.
There's a good amount.
Was
I don't know if
a
every
good
character
amount?
is, but
Yeah, there was a good amount. Like it was a good amount of like Mortal Kombat 1 for sure, and then Mortal Kombat 2 was kind of like there's some characters kind of like Reptile, for example. But I did like the cast. I thought that every character had their own like purpose, and they did like, they had some type of like substance where
Yes,
they showed off like something about them compared to Street Fighter, where like I said, like DJ didn't do anything, T-Hawk didn't do anything, Cammy didn't do anything.
I didn't even know that was T-Hawk until I looked it up afterwards.
Yeah,
and it was
he's like a skinny tall guy.
yeah, and I was like, that's T-Hawk? I didn't know that until I read the wiki afterwards. Crazy. Yeah, it looks like they tried to learn from Street Fighter. Didn't learn much, but they learned a little bit because you're right. They do add a little substance to everybody in Mortal Kombat. Still really bad, but in the best possible way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. They did, I would say the more iconic characters definitely justice.
Yes,
for sure. And I mean, even like I would say now, like Shang Tsung, like what's the actor's name?
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but pretty much the actor, like his face is actually Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Okay.
Right. So that's really cool because like I said, like nostalgia's fire. They were at a convention recently, and I took a picture with them. I was pretty happy because it was like my childhood like fanboyism right there.
Yeah, meeting the ultimate villain from your movie of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, like I mean, like Mortal Kombat 1 is still like something I would love to watch. Like if it like randomly showed up on TV, I would just leave it on and just watch it.
Yeah.
But Annihilation, though, that one was
Now I haven't
bad.
seen Annihilation. That's surprising.
Don't watch it. I mean, you could probably watch it and you'll laugh at it, but it's something.
What's the storyline in that one? What's the difference?
It's Shao Kahn.
Oh,
So it takes place after literally the tournament ended.
Mhm.
Like at the end, you hear that voice from Mortal Kombat 1. So then they bring him out right away with his minions, with his choice of characters, and pretty much you run back a fight.
Got it.
It's like similar, but it's just the fights weren't the greatest.
Okay, good to know. I mean, yeah, I watched Mortal Kombat on HBO, and it was like, "Do you want to watch Annihilation next?" I was like, probably not right now."
Yeah.
I kind of just forgot it even existed. So maybe one day I'll have to revisit that though.
It's funny to watch. Like, I mean, but I think Mortal Kombat 1 is probably the best Mortal Kombat movie of all time.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that'll come up in a second. I could probably sit here and talk about all these movies with you literally for the next 30, 40 minutes. So let's do a quick ad break. We'll come back. We'll do a top 3 that's maybe not related to fighting games, and then we'll answer a quick question from the community, and we'll be right back. Are you missing out on your favorite shows because it's not in your region, trying to keep your private time private? Well, let me introduce you to NordVPN. If you're bored of US Netflix, why not take a spin on the UK? Use NordVPN, and a click of a button, you can do just that. With 5,000 plus server options, no show is out of your reach. We all love to binge, but privacy is a big deal. NordVPN keeps your information encrypted, so you never have to worry. Make sure to use Justin's link in the description of the episode to get a great deal on NordVPN and support Justin's channel. All right, Justin. We talked a lot about fighting games. I'm curious to know what your 3 favorite movies are that aren't relating to fighting movies, aren't related to anything like that. What are we be surprised to hear about?
So, favorite 3 movies of all time that's not fighting game related?
Sure, yeah.
Can they be video game related?
Let's stick out of video games right now, and then see if maybe we'll try to get to video game ones next.
Okay, I would say, to be honest, the I actually love Spider-Man No Way Home as one of my
Okay.
top three.
All
Just
right.
just because the nostalgia factor is a thing. I love nostalgia
It's
factor.
it's a it's a good one. I mean, I think enough time has passed for us to say pretty exciting moment when the other Spider-Man showed up.
Yeah.
Uh, were you at a pretty crowded theater when that happened?
Oh yeah, everyone was going ham. So
Yeah.
I was just happy that everyone was going ham instead of more of like, huh, who,
I know, right? I was a
that
little
type of
nervous.
thing.
Yeah, I feel like people made that reaction when Charlie Cox's Daredevil showed up. I was
Yeah,
excited because I'd watched the
that
show,
was really cool too.
but a few people I noticed were like noticing other people reacting. They're like, "Who's that?" They didn't know who that was.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that's one.
okay, good choice, good choice.
Um, Another movie that I guess I remember as a kid that I loved watching and I had tears was actually Titanic.
Titanic. You're talking to a Titanic big fan over here. I love Titanic. It is a little corny at times, but I'm a big, big fan of it.
Yeah, I loved it. I actually went to the movie theaters twice as a kid watching that
Oh.
movie, and I'm still mad, man. Like Jack could have. Why Jack didn't have to go like that? That's all
He
I
had enough
know.
room. There was enough room to sit on the door with her.
Yeah, yeah. I would say I just like the storytelling. I kind of like that era of like when I'm watching like shows and everything like that. So to me, that one was really good.
Okay, we got Titanic. We got No Way Home. Pretty polarizing, different sides of the spectrum.
Different areas,
We got
right?
a romance. We got an action comedy Marvel movie. What about any sci-fi, any dramas, any fantasy?
So I would say, if it, well, my third one's actually a comedy, like super degenerate comedy. Super bad,
Oh, perfect.
dude. Super bad. I mean, that one's too good. Like
It's never not funny.
I lost it like when he was telling you like this is why I hate Becca. and I'm like, bro, there's no way. Like if someone ever told me that, I'm judging so hard. I'm like, bro, what? Like why would you ever draw that as a kid and make like imagination? So
Yeah.
I love every single second of Superbad.
It's a great choice. I don't think that's a degenerate comedy because I think it's a really, to be honest, a pretty well written, clever, witty comedy that's one of the best that's come out in the last 20 years. I would argue.
Yeah, I can watch Superbad every day, like and not be tired of it.
I completely agree with that. Now let's switch gears. Then you wanted to talk about video game movies. Do you have favorite video game movies besides Mortal Kombat? We know you love Mortal Kombat movie.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
That one, I mean, it just hits the mark. Like every little reference that they throw in is just too good. So that one was a blast to watch, I would say.
Yeah, I'm a big Scott Pilgrim fan. Crazy to think that movie, if you didn't know, was a box office bomb.
It didn't do well.
Didn't do well at all. It struggled financially, lost a lot of money, and it's crazy because, like you, I love it. And looking back at it, it's really well made. It's clever, hilarious. All the video game references are great. I was surprised to read it was such a financial failure.
That's crazy because like they made a video game afterwards, and then they had like manga comic books type of work, and I bought them too. So I thought it just did well because like bro, like you made more stuff, you made product afterwards, and you even have like so many like famous people in that movie, right?
Yeah, a lot of famous people.
Before Captain America was Captain America, he was a stunt devil.
He was. I know it has a lot of famous people on it, and I think the people who watch it always love it. So I, like you, was very surprised to read it was such a flop because everybody I knew who had seen it loves it. But I read, there's marketing issues. It was a very specific target audience, and it looked like kind of a dorky video game movie. So a lot of people kind of walked away from it.
Yeah, I guess nostalgia wasn't a big factor yet.
Not
as well.
That point.
But like if that movie came out now, I think it would be so successful.
So I agree. I think I even made a TikTok saying that those exact words. Yeah, if Scott Pilgrim were to come out now, it would be a financial success for sure. So, all right. Any other video game movies? Did you see Sonic 2?
Oh, I love Sonic 2.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, Knuckles is the coolest character. He's my favorite throughout the whole movie. Just because of how innocent he is and pure, pretty much. But overall, I mean, Jim Carrey just kills it. He kills it. I did read that like this is like potentially maybe his last film. I hope not, because I mean, like if Sonic 3 came out, I would love to see him back as usual.
I agree.
So
I agree. Scale 1 to 10 without spoiling the post-credit scene. On a scale 1 to 10, how excited were you or hyped were you when you saw it?
oh, that's 20 out of 10.
Oh, I agree.
20 out of 10
Yeah.
for sure. I didn't expect that, because I actually didn't expect it, because I'm just like, I mean, what can they do now? And I'm like, oh shit.
Did you see Morbius?
I did not
Okay.
yet. I
don't
heard
need to-
it's
you don't need to watch
pretty
it.
bad.
Yeah.
So the crazy part is like, so you know how like the way they make Marvel movies, like Morbius is kind of reminds me of like how it's made by like Venom. I mean, it's pretty much made by the same person that did
Mhm.
Venom. So like that type of style never does well
Mhm.
for a movie, because the Venom movies didn't do as well as like compared to the other Marvel films. Because I guess more of the other Marvel films are more like light and also good amount of comedy,
Mhm.
which is pretty delightful. But like this one's just like the comedy doesn't. It seems like a little try hardish, right?
Yes,
it's kind of
yeah.
forced
Yeah.
for these type of characters. So I guess maybe it just didn't like. It's not on my list to watch.
Yeah, and,
for
and
sure.
as somebody who saw it, I could say, hey, if you catch it on TV, catch it on TV.
Yeah, Disney. I'll wait for it on Disney Plus. If anything.
Exactly. But I will say, I saw that maybe a week before Sonic, and the post-credit scene for Morbius is very bad. It's awful.
Oh
And like
no.
was just panned online. People were saying, what happened? They just gave up. And then I watched Sonic 2 the following week, and like that's a post-credit scene. That's
Yeah,
how you do it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Any other video game movies out there that you really like?
I actually like Free Guy.
Okay.
Free Guy was pretty cool, just
Free Guy's
because I love the fact that they got a lot of like real life Twitch streamers actually part of the movie.
Oh, they did. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I thought that was really fantastic, and they had a bit of references as well in there. So yeah, I would say Free Guy is kind of just like a really cool thing, just because if I felt like video games acknowledge that we exist type of thing.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah. Free Guy reminds me a lot of, I like Free Guy, but it reminds me a lot of Ready Player One.
Yeah,
Which
I agree.
I liked Ready Player One a lot as well. I thought that was a pretty fun, just like throwing characters out. There's, you get Tracer from Overwatch running with the
Yeah.
Battletoads, and then there's like a whole scene with The Shining. It was just like a pop culture extravaganza, and I really liked that one.
Yeah. That one was pretty cool, because it just seemed like it was like a whole war.
Yeah.
Right, because they're trying to find that specific like estate or whatever, right? Like they're trying to find that one item to get them rich,
Yeah.
right? So
The
that you had like
Easter
the
egg or
corp,
whatever.
and you had the corporations hiring people to like whatever. It was like a war. I was like, damn, this is like a sad place to live. Like you can't even enjoy video games at this point.
I know. Yeah. Everybody's fighting just to get rich. Oh, man. Okay. How do you feel about the Resident Evil movies?
I'm gonna be honest with you. After I watched the first one, I never watched another one ever again.
I was curious since you're a Capcom guy.
I just didn't like it, because it just seemed like they just never got it. And based off like
They didn't.
everyone's replies, it's like they never changed. I mean, they still have the same people like playing their characters and everything, and it just never stood out for me. I love playing Resident Evil, the game. The games in
same.
general are great, but it just seems like they can't do the movie right. And the crazy part is, it doesn't even seem that difficult.
Yeah.
Like when you think about like to make a good zombie movie, it doesn't seem that hard, because there's so many successful zombie movies out there.
Yeah. Well, and you make a really good point because, well, one, it's a really inundated field because there are a ton of zombie movies, but it feels like it's all there already, right? All of the lore is there, the stories are there, the characters are there, but it was so hard for them to translate it. The most recent Resident Evil movie was called like Welcome to Raccoon City, and still they tried to reboot the whole thing, and like it was a little bit more fun and arcadey, but still they just can't grasp it yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I did see. I know Capcom loves making movies of their popular franchises. So I did see Monster Hunter, which was also pretty
I never
bad.
saw it. Oh, man.
It's one of those things where you watch to laugh.
Yeah.
You're not watching for the action. You're watching for the comedy.
Got it. The unintentional comedy or the intentional comedy, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much the unintentional comedy where you're like, yeah, that's not supposed to happen. He's not supposed to do that. Why is he doing that? Like, you pretty much that's your whole evening when you're watching that
Amazing.
movie.
All right. Let's move to the last segment of the show real quick. We got a question from somebody on Twitter that I thought was really interesting because as somebody who's familiar with like the base Street Fighter characters and maybe the base lore, it's the universe has grown a lot, I would imagine. And Street Fighter 6 has been announced. So we got a question saying, which forgotten character from the Street Fighter universe would you like to see make a return in Street Fighter 6?
Man, so far we only have Luke and Ryu as like that's the teaser. But Capcom, I would say there's probably gonna be a lot of returning characters in from Street Fighter 5. But a character that I would love to see come back, and just kind of it would be really cool. It would probably be Eagle. Eagle is a Street Fighter 1 character.
Oh.
So he only shows up in Street Fighter 1, Capcom versus SNK 2, and one of those ported Street Fighter Alpha 3 modes. But Eagle's like he's a very original character that just probably has never came back ever since like the early 2000s. So I would love to see him.
The bouncer looking one?
Yeah, he has bouncer. He has the spandex, the suspenders, and he has 2 sticks that he fights with.
Oh, okay. I vaguely can see the image in my brain. I didn't know. I mean, are there a lot of characters who just haven't been ported to newer games? Really?
I would say. I mean, they pretty much got almost every character in Street Fighter 2 except for T-Hawk and DJ. But there are a bunch of Street Fighter 1 characters.
Those guys are in the movie too. Like, what happened?
They were in the movie. There's a lot of Street Fighter 3 characters that never made it yet. But there's references for them. But I would say probably other characters that have never seen the light of day anymore are probably characters from different fighting game IPs, like such as Rival Schools, that could be in Street Fighter 5 since they added one character, for Akira from Rival Schools, in the game. But there's like 20 other characters that never came back.
That's a lot. I didn't know there was so much IP out there they could even put into 6. Okay, so Eagle's your answer.
Yeah, I would love Eagle just because I haven't seen him in a long time, and he was really cool.
All right, we'll let Capcom know that that's your request and see if they can put him in then.
I doubt it, but it'll be nice. It'll be nice just because nostalgia's in, bro. Just take advantage of it.
There we go. I'll tweet at them and say, hey, Jay Wong and I say put Eagle in. Perfect.
There you go.
All right. Well, Justin, we're reaching the end. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'll make sure to put all of your social media and your links in the description of the episode so you guys can check out Justin's page. Justin, again, thank you so much for being here. It was a blast. We'll have to talk soon whenever they make that Street Fighter remake.
No, of course. Anytime. Thanks for having me. And that Street Fighter movie remake, and make sure Jean-Claude Van Damme's somewhere in the background. Just like how they got the green, they had Tommy Oliver in the new Power Rangers movie at the end, and they just showed up, right? So
exactly.
They might as well let Jean-Claude Van Damme keep that role.
And he's still in good shape too.
There you go.
Be like sticking out or anything.
He can do a flash kick.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. Make sure to follow the show on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you guys next week for a new episode.